Right, welcome ladies and gents. DC studio boss James Gunn gets brutally honest about SnyderVerse and DCEU's effed up journey. Yep, direct quote. Some people will be really annoyed by this. I think in fairness, he's actually quite down the line on it. I'm not going to back him up on anything. I think his slate wasn't particularly great, but hey, it is what it is. Just before we dive into this, ladies and gents, please do check out the second channel. You'll find it linked in the description box. We discuss a lot of this stuff on the Hcast, but some of this stuff is brand new. It comes to us from, well, basically like a massive press junket, which you can't find the actual details of. You can't look at it. You just have to rely on third-party reporters, which is really frustrating. So it is what it is. Also, if you're new here, please do hit subscribe. There's over 50% of my audience that watches these videos that actually isn't subscribed. I'd love to have you here more often. Turn those bell notifications on. You obviously like the content. So, yeah, do hit subscribe. Tell YouTube you like the content, because YouTube is nerfing the channel. But I digress slightly. First and foremost, what did you think of James Gunn's DC Studios slate? Did you like it? Did you not? I think it's definitely got a lot of people mixed. And I think the people that will be watching this video will be SnyderVerse fans, and they'll be really angry about this. And I get that. I get that. So let's take a look, okay? This is the whole Gods and Monsters, Chapter 1. Bearing in mind, he didn't actually list off the entire slate. That's important to note. There's more to come, because there was barely anything live action, actually. There was really barely any. So anyway, obviously, we didn't know at the time, when it kicked off, 2013's Man of Steel. Dark Knight Rises had brought that particular story to a close the year before. And while there have been some rumours about Green Lantern making a cameo appearance during Superman's return to the big screen, the response to that movie seemingly killed the idea of a wider sort of element. Warner Brothers later announced Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, and then we get loads of movies being announced. Loads of movies, a whole slate. And this is why some people are not actually that excited about the DC Studios slate, whatever you want to call it now, DCU. Primarily because we've seen this before. We've seen them announce a huge slate of content, and like nothing happened with it. So yeah, interesting. But of course, we now have this new slate. James Gunn, Peter Safran, they're creating a brand new DCU. It's essentially a full-on reboot, but there's some rumours that some characters will make an appearance and continue. And then there's stuff which is now DC Elseworlds, which I think is a good way to do it. Personally, having the Batman in an offshoot, fine, cool, happy with that. Same as the Joker. Joker's a universe which works, or at least has done. We'll see what Joker Folie à Deux, gives us. So we had yesterday's event. Well, the announcement, and then there was a press junket event where Gunn reflected on the legacy of everything from the DCEU to the SnyderVerse and Arrowverse, sharing his take on what went wrong and how they will fix it. So this is the interesting thing. This is how they think that they're going to fix what they think went wrong. So this is important because it can tell you essentially whether they're along the right track in your mind or not. I wanted to take care of these characters, James said. We all know it's been an effed up road for many of them for the past few years, and I really thought it is a challenge. But I think it's a possibility to create something really wonderful with these characters. The history has been shit, and it's been a real effed up journey for DC. Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. He's simply just not wrong there. I think there was basically no one minding the mint, and they were giving out IP to any creative that smiled at whoever was in charge. The only way he's able to say this is because obviously the old regime has changed and new people are in charge, and now he is, along with Peter Safran, the CEO of DC Studios. But I do like the fact that he's just throwing shade at everyone. There was never any real power given to the people in charge, and so somebody could always go over their head and do whatever they wanted. So there's that, which I think is true. From everything we've heard, that is completely true. And then he would go on, what seemingly referenced Black Adam, Dwayne Johnson. Essentially, when he went around DC, Walter Hamada to bring Henry Cavill back as Superman. That's basically what he's referencing there. He said the following: we had the DCEU, which then became the Joss Whedon Justice League. I disagree, but fine. But it also became the SnyderVerse, which became this. And then we have Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 2, which doesn't even match what happened in Wonder Woman 1. You're not wrong there, mate. That's basically what everyone thought. And then we have the Arrowverse, and even us coming in with the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. What is it exactly? And all of a sudden, Batmite's a real guy. So how can we take these things together and make them make sense? And have them unified and have them be one real universe, one real world. So that's what he's trying to do, is obviously make it a unified structure, which they did need to do. It's interesting. There's things which he's saying by not saying it, or things which he's saying which he's alluding to. So he talks about the Snyderverse, which became the DCU, and then he's like, and then we've got Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 2. Like, is he separating that? Because if he is separating that, then does that mean Gal Gadot's not done? What's the situation there? Interesting. I honestly, he is right that it has been an effed up journey for DC. And there'll be loads of people in the comments now going, yeah, well, as the Snyderverse, it would have made sense. That's what, Snyder wanted to do. And people will say, well, Wonder Woman 1 was a Snyderverse product, and that's why it sort of attached itself there. But then obviously moving forwards with Wonder Woman 2, they gave Patty Jenkins too much power, which, it's interesting because he's talking about having creatives having control, right? But the problem with creatives having control is that you actually end up with a situation like Wonder Woman 2 where it does feel disjointed. Because it did feel disjointed. It didn't feel like it connected to anything. And that's a byproduct of giving her, Patty Jenkins, too much power. Wonder Woman 1 felt like it fit in, whatever you think of the film, it at least felt like it fit in to what Zack Snyder was trying to create. At the very least, it did that. And then you walk in Wonder Woman 2 after Patty Jenkins has too much control, and then boom, it's gone all over the place. And I think this is the problem that they will actually run into, is that it will still feel disjointed because he's talking about creatives having full control. Now, one would imagine, obviously because he is in charge, is that he can streamline that process, but it doesn't seem like his, he says here about how, it was basically the old thing became the new thing, and it's the same. Everything was basically the same. It feels like that's basically still going to happen here. I don't see anything which differentiates this from what has already happened. Or at least the pitfalls of what happened seem to crop up, I believe, in his new plan here. But again, I do like the fact that he's just throwing out shade to everyone, basically saying, people just went around everyone and that was fine, whatever, no one really looked after it, etc., etc. Hopefully what he means now is obviously they are minding it, they're minding DC, and they're not giving out IP to anyone that smiles at them. And now, because they have all the power, no one will be able to go around them to do whatever they wanted. So maybe that's what he's trying to say. But it's interesting nonetheless. Let me know what you guys think down below. I'd love to hear it. Like, genuinely curious. But I don't think, he's talking about these kind of pitfalls. It does feel like some of this stuff is the potential, or has the potential to happen in what he's trying to create as well. But let me know what you guys think. Cheers, guys. Give the video a like. Take care.